while ago, I made a video about the importance of not stepping on your teammates' feet. Being super close to a teammate has a lot of downsides, making it so one of you being seen and losing stealth puts you both in danger. You can both get hit by the same AoE damage. You can't fully capitalize on a 2v1 situation because you're both threatened at the same time and might shot block each other and can't create two separate angles on an enemy player. You're probably leaving part of the map available for the enemy team to use that you could just be keeping them out of. There are a lot of problems there. But in practice, I've seen players struggle sometimes with how to position to avoid these situations, even when they know they should be trying to avoid them. They might end up in situations where both players try to take different angles, but end up moving in the same direction and failing to create distance from each other. It's like walking towards someone in the hallway and both trying to step in the same direction to avoid the other at the same time, having an awkward little dance before they can manage to pick a different side to take. This is a very avoidable situation, but I think not everyone picks up on how to avoid it through experience. With a lot of skills, I'd say that being on a coordinated team makes them easier because you can just talk about them on comms. But the amount of time it takes to make a call out about this sort of thing is often actually prohibitive. You actually want to figure this out with your teammate intuitively. You want it to go without saying. You want it to be something that maybe you practice or talk about in a VOD review later, but that you don't need to say anything about in the context of a game. It's a pretty critical fundamental skill for taking 2v1s effectively, and I do think it can be learned from playing solo queue just about as well as on a coordinated team. There are a lot of similarities in these cases to the situation where you and a teammate are both targeted by tentamissiles. There are rare situations where two nearby players targeted by missiles actually do want to move in the same direction at the same time, but for the most part, you want to position similarly to how you position to create advantageous 2v1s. Firstly, if I'm already in one position relative to my teammate, so let's say, for example, I'm behind them, but the same goes for if I'm to their right or to their left or something, I want to continue to be in that orientation toward them and continue to move in that direction away from them. So if I were back here, I would want to continue moving in this direction because I'm currently behind them and I want to stay behind them and if anything be further behind them in case they need to back up into the space I've vacated. And same deal here. If I'm to the right of them, I generally want to end up moving further in that direction away from them. Now, there's a little bit of leeway here. It never has to be exactly perpendicular to the direction of the player, but you never want to be in the situation where you're moving closer to them before you continue further away from them. So maybe something like this. This moves the danger closer to them before you move it further away from them. As anyone who is messed with tentamissiles can attest, this is going to be a really dangerous situation if you have the missiles on you, and this is also not a great idea if you are trying to position around this teammate so that you are taking opposite angles from each other. Better to just keep moving in a direction that continues to go away from them until they get the idea about where you're planning on going. This is especially important if my teammates' options are currently limited. Never put missiles right behind them if the space in front of them is contested by an enemy player and they're counting on being able to back up. In the same way, don't run up to right where your teammate is currently retreating from. Even if you don't see the danger right away, if they're retreating, it's probably for a reason, and that reason is probably compelling for both of you. In fact, that reason is probably even more compelling for you than it was for them, because a lot of the time this means that an opponent has been alerted to that spot that you're moving up to occupy for longer than your teammate felt comfortable staying in it. Remember what I said about a spot on the map being stinkier the longer that you stay in it? Well, a teammate can make that part of the map stinky before you even get there, and that can attract opponents to it even though you just got there. If I'm in a position where my teammate can see me, I'm going to telegraph my decision for where to move early and without hesitating or backing down on it. It's a lot easier to tell where a teammate is going to move if they start beelining in that direction early on and don't show any signs of indecision. Don't fake your teammate out. Going back and forth will cost you time that you could be spending getting into your new position. And since you're the one who's moving away from the angle your teammate is at, it'll probably take you longer to get into play, and you don't want to waste that time with waffling. Something that can help you visualize alternative positions to take is to consider what your teammate can't hit very well. If there's a piece of cover in front of your teammate blocking them from hitting shots on a particular spot, put yourself somewhere that you can see the side of the cover that they can't see, so that now an opponent can't use it to approach your teammate. If that piece of cover is doing double duty, blocking both of you from being able to hit the same opponent, it might be time to rotate to put yourself in a position where you can actually flush that player out. If I'm in a position where my teammate can't see me, now it's just my responsibility to go someplace else, to not step on their toes, because they don't even know that I'm here. So I'm going to automatically move in the direction of someplace where, while I can still see the same things that they see generally, I'm going to be in a different position from them. If you'll remember, my first video about stepping on a teammate's toes specified backline weapons as especially poor teammates to do that to. Backline weapons often only really have 2 or 3 positions on the map that make sense to take in any given situation. And if you decide to take one of them, that puts them in the difficult situation of needing to either step on your toes or take a long time to rotate to the other position, leaving them out of play for longer than they planned. Just know that, as a frontline weapon, when a backliner takes the position that you're in, even if you were there first, it's generally better for you to be the one that moves, because you can play the game well from more places than just that one spot, whereas they kinda just need to play from that one spot. This includes, but is definitely not limited to, riding the tower. Hopefully this helps you cover more of the map, avoid danger, and generally take 2v1 fights more effectively with both your solo queue and coordinated teammates.